like a bird in the sky. The legend of the electric scooter guy. No gas, no fumes, just a hum in the air. A helmet on crooked, like he doesn't care. With a backpack full of snacks and a gleam in his eye. He's the hero we need, the electric scooter guy.
Gear up, scooter fam. Today I thought I'd do a four-way scooter comparison. And the first one to start off with is going to be the upcoming Hooga Daytona. We have a few to talk about. I'm going to go over each one of them, go over their specs. Heads up, I don't have these to test. This is just taking a look at each one of the scooters, looking at their specs and comparing them based on what I know and what I can find. So I'll be looking at the Hooga Daytona, the Mars XTR by Teewing, also the G-Space GTR, something like that, and then the Teverun Fighter Supreme, as well as the Yume Predator. And afterwards, I'll go ahead and give them a ranking from my favorite down to my least favorite. Not that they're not all worthy of being decent scooters, but I'll go over some of the pluses and minuses to each one, and once again give you my final tally at the end. All right, so to start off with, we'll go over this pretty quickly. I talked about the Hooga Daytona in a single video by itself, but this is just a four-way comparison. But like I said, we'll start with the Hooga Daytona. So Hooga Daytona right now is selling for $3,700 pretty much. And I just wanted to point out real quick that even though this says fast and free shipping, when I put it in the cart, it actually charged me $200 when I add it to the cart. And I'll pop a snippet right up here so you guys can see that. But yeah, I put it in the cart and it does say $200, even though it says fast and free shipping. That may be something you can get a code for or talk them out of. But just so you know, theoretically you should be able to get fast and free shipping, but I'm seeing $200 for shipping when I add it to the cart. Okay, so to get started, the claim top speed is 70 miles per hour. I've seen a video that got up to, it was in kilometers, but it was over 120 kilometers, which is about 80-ish miles an hour. So not too bad. Long range says 50 miles, and motorcycle dot brakes and then roadster caliber controller. Here's the specs we went on before, but I'll go over them real quick. Once again, top speed 70, range 50 miles, going full speed. And so that's a full speed range expectation, not a expectation of if you go in eco mode with the scooter that is meant to go 70, 80 miles an hour. So I got to give them props for that. Battery 72 volt, 40 amp hour, 21700 LG cells. It's a decent battery, 40 amp hour, really nice size battery. It gets 50 miles going full speed. That's amazing. Charge time is 10 hours with one charger and 5 hours with two chargers. The controllers, they have 72 volt, 60 amp controllers. That's very, very nice. The motor wattage says 10 kilowatts. I'm going to skip right over that. Max rider weight is 380 pounds. It weighs about 152 pounds. As I mentioned before, it's got an IPX5 water rating. Hill climb is 45 degrees. The display is a 3.5 inch color TFT display. Throttle is reversed downwards finger throttle, it says, which to me is just a reverse paddle throttle that you operate with your first finger. The tire is a 13-inch tubeless with self-sealing gel. Brakes are 4-piston hydraulic, as mentioned before. Has headlights, deck lights, brake lights, signal lights, and then there are the dimensions. Before moving on, I just wanted to also mention that, you know, one of the reasons that I was so excited about the Daytona originally is because it was being marketed as an e-move scooter. So now whether or not it was going to be called the e-move Daytona, it was called Project Daytona. But there's plenty of video and pictures, I believe, for sure, showing e-move on the deck of the scooter. So thought it was going to be an e-move scooter, meaning that Voro Motors would be the manufacturer. I said in my last video it was a little interesting that they said the manufacturer claim, and then I thought Voro was the manufacturer. Apparently Voro is not the manufacturer. So however, it's not an e-move line, so it's not a Voro Motors scooter, which changes it for me quite a bit, because the reason I was interested in it necessarily was because I was like, oh yeah, great, finally Voro Motors has a scooter that's over $3,000, that's not $7,000, that can be that they can support. So they have all the parts in house, and they don't have to like depend on another scooter company that I don't know about to get them the parts. And then there's a bunch of finger pointing going on, whose fault it is that we don't have the parts that we need, or whatever the case may be. And so I liked the idea of getting a scooter like this that seems to be very cool, very nice, high speed, good range, really beefy, 13-inch tire. I mean, just a great scooter in general overall. Although I don't think it's necessarily necessary to get 13-inch tires. It's not a knock on the scooter by any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, my initial interest in the Huga Daytona, before it was a Hooga Daytona, when I thought it was going to be the e-move, whatever it was going to be, then that was a main part of my interest, is because I could go directly to Voro Motors and I could say, hey, I'm having issues, I need such and such, and they'll support. That support would be quick, on time, and they would have parts availability, so there would be no fingers to point. It would hopefully they would do as they should and support their product. But since it's not their product, and I'm guessing Hooga is the name of the company, it's a little bit unclear. I'd like to get some more information around this. If I do, I'll certainly share it with you guys. But yeah, I would like to get some more information about the scooter. I thought it was going to be an e-move product. I thought it was going to be a Voro Motor scooter, and at the last minute it becomes Hooga, which I have no earthly idea who Hooga is. So I just don't. I'm a little bit confused about that part. Being perfectly honest, it's a cool scooter, but I don't know what Hooga means. And I've heard that it is certain that in a blog post, which I don't know where that came from, but I heard from a viewer. Thanks for the information. That it was in a big long blog post that they were not the manufacturer of the Daytona. So that's different than what I thought. Different than what I was led to believe early on by just seeing marketing and so forth. So that's just a note that is kind of a heads up on that, and something for me that definitely makes a difference. And I still wish that Voro Motors would come out with a scooter that's around $3,000 to $4,000 that they could support and have a quality scooter, and that I could go directly to them and not have to worry about them having to go somewhere else. I want the buck to stop with Voro Motors and me be able to communicate with them. I feel like if that were the case, then I would feel a lot better about the purchase. But Teverun I've heard of. I've not heard great things about their customer service, though, from a company standpoint. There are some retailers that have gotten some good marks, but it's still kind of difficult because a lot of times they have to go to the manufacturer for, once again, for like replacement parts and so forth. So that's a big thing. But anyway, not there yet. Mars XTR is the next one that we're going to talk about. All right, so the next scooter up is going to be the Mars XTR by Teewing, also known as the G Space. GTR or something like that. But anyway, it's the same scooter, just under a different name. One has G-Space badging, and one has Teewing badging. So whichever one there, and I believe they're at the same price. So, but I learned about it first with Teewing, and so Teewing is what I go to. And in general, it's a pretty nice scooter. It has everything that you would want from a scooter. Things that I like about the style, it just has the dual forks that go the dual stem that go right down into the into the wheel, into the directly to the wheel, meaning that there's not a C suspension in between this. And so when you're going 60 plus miles an hour, like the GTR, like the Wolf, the old Wolf series from Cabo, you never heard about stability problems at high speeds with this dual stem setup. And so, but it's because of how it goes directly to the wheel there. You'll never see a steering damper on an XTR, on a Mars XTR, or a Wolf King. King GTR or King GT by Cabo. You'll never see a steering damper on those scooters because they don't need them, and that's what I like about them the most. They just don't need them, Simple as that. So let's go take a look at some specs. Find a spec sheet here. All right, so the specs for the Teewing Mars XTR, we got a 72 volt 45 amp hour Samsung cell. That's nice. It's about 5 amp hours larger than the Hooga Daytona. Dual motors, obviously. Rated power is 2,000 watts times 2. Max power is 10,000 watts. Torque is 56 Newton meters. Controller is a FOC controller. They're not sine wave, but it's supposed to be like a type of sine wave. FOC sine wave controller. It's not. It's a little bit different than the other sine wave controllers that I understand, but it's not completely a square wave controller. I've had so my understanding has grown about that quite a bit. So it's but it is 72 volts by 65 amps, which is also a little bit better. I think the 60 amps for the Huga Daytona as well. Max range is 88 miles. Max speed is 68 miles per hour. A TFT display and 5 different modes, speed modes. 5 different speed modes. Brakes, it has electronic brakes and not hydraulic disc brakes. Suspension is F&R EXA adjustable hydraulic shocks. Tires are 11-inch explosion proof. Hybrid tubeless tires. Handlebar is unfolding aluminum alloy. Charger is a 72 volt 6 amp hour charger. Charging time is 8 hours. Can carry 440 pounds. 50 and travel up to a 50% grade. Waterproof is IP66. Weighs 132 pounds, almost 134. And then there are the specs. So overall, great price on this scooter. It's been pretty consistent. I don't see a lot of deals. I've seen a little bit of deals over Black Friday, and even then, I think it only went down to like $3,200. Other than that, it's been right at $3,400 the entire time. So, for the money, still one of the best high performance scooters that you can get, in my opinion. The next scooter we're going to be taking a look at is the Teverun Fighter Supreme 7260R. Right now, the only place I know to get it on is on Voro Motors, and well, there is another place I can. It's in Canada though. This is the only place in the United States. So it's right at $4,000. Although they are out of stock right now. Has a speed of over 60 miles per hour and 75 miles of range. Can climb a 40-degree climb. Here's a spec sheet. Top speed is 62 miles an hour. Range is 75 miles. The battery is crazy, insane, large, 72 volt at 60 amp hours. LG or Samsung. I'm not sure if that's random or whatever, but it has either LG or Samsung cells. Not sure, like I said, how they decide which one you get, but it's name brand cells either way. LG and Samsung both are decent cells. Charge time is about 6 hours with 2 chargers, 12 hours with 1. Controller is a dual 70 amp sine wave controller. That's the biggest so far that we've looked at today. 70 amps is quite a bit. Motors, dual 2,500 watt motors. It'll carry 330 pounds, weighs about 140 pounds, and has a light rain water rating. Hill climbs 40 degrees. It's got a TFT display with an NFC. Throttle's a finger throttle. Tires are 13-inch puncture-resistant tubeless tires. Brakes are 4-piston hydraulics. It's got headlights, deck lights, brake lights, and signal lights. And then the dimensions. Overall, what do I think about the Teverun Fighter Supreme 7260R? I think it's very cool. I know 2 people that have got them. They both, from what I know so far, really seem to like them. And so, it's interesting. 13-inch tires, really big, beefy scooter. Really nice look to it. From what I hear, like I said, it rides really well. But some things that some notes, some things I necessarily don't really like about the scooter personally. It's got a finger throttle. I think you can switch it out. I think I've seen someone do that. Maybe it was the average guy, if I remember correctly. So maybe you can switch that out, because that's something I would be doing if I got this scooter. The other thing that's kind of and I think I've said this before, I'm not a big fan of steering dampers. Once again, that's why I'm for the high speed scooters. I've liked the Cabo Kings, the dual stem Cabos, because none of the dual stem Cabos have a need or even have a steering damper that will fit them. So I like that a lot, and this not only has 1 but 2. So I don't prefer them at all. There are some scooters that I could say might make it that I'd be willing to handle, and this is one of them. I don't necessarily dislike this scooter just because of it, but it is a thing that I'm not going to pretend that I don't like. I don't like. It's not something I like. I don't. I know it. It's supposed to just restrict the flow a little bit, and it doesn't really. It's adjustable. It's okay. It's just okay. I don't want to beat it up too much. I do like it. The other real ding on this one is it almost doesn't have a water rating. Light rain is not a water rating, and so I assume maybe they just don't have they haven't rated it for whatever reason. So I don't like that. Not even gonna lie about that. Light rain is come on. So pretty much don't take it out. Don't take it out when it's wet at all. Don't take a risk if you think it might rain, or it's been raining, because you hit a deep puddle. That could be an issue. All right, the last one of the 4 scooter comparison is going to be the Yumi Predator. And the Yumi Predator, I haven't spent a ton of time on. The Yumis are very interesting, but I'm perfectly honest, I don't spend a ton of time on the Yumis. Not that they don't deserve it. And so that's why I went ahead and added it to this comparison. There are other scooters I could have added to this comparison. It probably deserved to be on just as much as the Predator. Maybe some people think even more, but I wanted to compare this. Although I have compared the Teewing Mars XTR and the Predator before, you know, I will go ahead and add it in here with the four-way comparison. One thing, it says all Yumi scooters are UL tested. That's great. UL certified. That's awesome. That's always a good to know. You got USA based support. I've heard pretty good things about Yumi in general from people that own them. So I have no complaints about that. The scooter looks pretty cool. It seems to have like a Nami kind of latch here, which I do like a lot. I can't see the other side, but it looks like a Nami style latch, at least on the Klima. I think they're the same. Actually, I think on the other ones they unscrew. So this looks like a Klima latch, which I don't mind at all. I've had really good experience with it, and so that's fine with me. Here are our specs for the Yumi Predator, and it's listed to have a top speed of 63 miles per hour. Get 100 miles on the charge. It's got a 72 volt 50 amp hour battery, so it's the second largest behind the Teverun 7260R, and so really big, really nice sized battery. It's 5 amp hours larger than the Teewing and 10 amp hours larger than the Huga Daytona. Total peak power says 10,080 watts, roughly the same as I think what we've been looking at this whole time. It's got 3 speed modes, custom controller that are power curve. So I think they're supposed to be kind of like sine wave like controllers. And quad piston Mafia brand hydraulic brakes. It uses water cooling power management, which is pretty interesting. Got a PC board smart diagnostic tool, 2,000 recharge cycles, dual charging ports, can support up to 330 pounds. It's got 13-inch all-terrain tires. It has Bluetooth app and is locked by NFC. NFC is my favorite kind of locking system. So I have my Nami Klima. I have 2 of them that came with the Klima. These Nami keys, these NFC keys, and you punch it up to the keypad, NFC unlock pad to unlock it. Some it's inside the display, but on the Nami they actually have a separate pad. Doesn't bother me at all. This is an NFC ring that I bought from Amazon for about $30, and I'll try to put a link down below if you guys are interested. If you have a NFC powered scooter and or lockable scooter, then you can possibly get it and recharge. The way you do it on the Nami is you take it has to be the original. It has to be the original. You take the original and you hold it on there, and usually it'll turn on, but instead of removing it when it turns on, you leave it there. You leave it on top of the NFC module, and the NFC module will start blinking really fast. And then you simply take the ring and you hold it up there, and then it'll keep blinking, and eventually it'll stop blinking. So when it stops blinking, you're all set. You've now added this ring to your NFC module. So I keep this that to have when I take the Nami out. I leave both of my original keys at home in a drawer because I don't want to lose them. So they're my backups. Like if I lose them, I can't even go get another NFC key and reprogram it because you have to have those. So I only carry my ring with me. Now I also carry a backup in my wallet, which is an old credit card that I had. debit card or something like that that expired, and it has a chip, and so you can use an old, the same way that I did the ring. You can use an old credit card that you don't want to use anymore. The same kind of way, you take the original key card and you hold it on there till it starts blinking. Take the chip on the card and place it up on top, and then hold it there till it stops blinking. And when it stops blinking, you can use that card to do that. And that's how I did it for a while. It was nice to carry in my wallet, but I did carry a one of two of the NFC cards to get in to the scooter. And mostly I would just use my wallet. Pull out my wallet. You know, I know which card it is, so I just take it out, pop it on there, and go. But that's my backup. It's much easier to wear a ring because I have gloves on, and so, you know, most of the time, especially with the fingerless gloves, I don't have to remove them when I'm trying to like get my wallet out or something, because I have dexterity with my fingers. And so I will use, you know, I will just use the fingerless gloves. I have my ring on under the gloves, and then I just tap it when I'm ready to go, and tap it when I'm ready to turn it off, and then I'm out of there. So it's pretty nice to be able to have something so convenient. And like I said, I can get them anytime I need. I can get one for $30 from Amazon and just be ready to go, you know, again. So I like the ring the best. Like I said, that you can take an old credit card, debit card, and that has a chip, and program it in the same way, and then put your NFC cards up somewhere safe in case you have to get something else to program. But I always recommend keeping them as a tool for programming something else. I don't really recommend as using like on your keychain just to go. Personally, I wouldn't. Even if you get an NFC ring to put on your keychain, I would do that before I would put one of those, because once again, I see people lose them, and they're like, "What do you do if I lose them?" You got to get a whole new NFC module. And if you don't have an NFC module on your scooter and the NFC is in the display, then you may have to get a whole new display. I'm not sure about that one, but I think it would make sense. So don't lose your NFC don't lose your NFC key cards. And if possible, which I would think so, based on the technology, that there would be a way to program new NFC. I think it's like that with almost every NFC chip reader there is. I think you can add things to them and program. There's an easy way to do it. Mine was really easy. And if you have the Klima, or you have a Nami, or you have a scooter that has a similar NFC module, I'm pretty sure it'll work. So my overall opinion of the Predator, $3,700. It's not the cheapest on this list. It's not the most expensive. It's about the same as the Hooga Daytona. A little bit bigger battery, little bit faster controllers, a little bit higher controllers. I see it's UL listed. Not sure about the Daytona. I don't remember if it's UL listed or not. But I can say, just, you know, I do like it. It has a steering dampener as well, I think I said, and I don't necessarily you know, not my favorite. I think I believe you can get a thumb throttle on this scooter, which is nice. And once again, Yumi is a fairly reputable brand. I haven't heard too many big issues, and a lot of people that have Yumis really seem to like them. One real quick before I move on to discuss going to the other part of the video, I did want to do what some scooter channels call a honorable mention, and I wanted to mention the InMotion RS because they have a 2.0 coming out, supposed to have better motor wires and so forth, supposed to be someone to fix some of the problems from the first edition. I say it deserves an honorable mention. Right now it's $3,700, same as the Huga Daytona. And, you know, I could tell, you know, the specs, you've got a 72 volts, 40 amp hour, I believe it is. You got 11-inch tires. You got a 60 amp controllers. You know, I know a lot about this scooter, and I've been following it for a while, and I know that, you know, people have had problems with them, and I know that they haven't had the best support and so forth, and obviously that's a reason why I probably haven't gotten it already. These are issues for this level of scooter, for that much money to spend, that I just wouldn't probably be willing to take a risk. But the new ones coming out, I'll be watching closely for sure. And but if you look at this scooter, I think it still competes very well with some of these that I talked about already. It has an IP6 66 rating, and some of it's IP67. I think it's the display or the battery, but it's got a very high water rating, which is pretty important to me. The scooter's so stable; it's very low to the ground. It's kind of a long base, which I think, you know, makes it feel stable. You do have to do that one little adjustment to the steering dampener to prevent some possible wobbles at a high speed, and I already am aware of that and know how to address that. So that's not the biggest ordeal, and it is a steering damper, but it's internal, which I kind of like better. I don't like the ones that stick out because a lot of times it can inhibit the rotation of the stem while you're trying to steer. So, but this scooter, there's so many people ride it, so many people like it. Yes, they've had issues, but they're willing to stick it out with the scooter and keep it and so forth. So I did want to bring this up before I give my final ranking as my honorable mention. How would I rank these? I'm only going to rank these 4. Once again, I'm not going to rank the InMotion RS. It's kind of a wild card kind of scooter. It's one of those that, you know, you probably don't hear me talk about that often, and then next thing you know, I'll probably have one delivered because of, you know, whatever reason, a good deal I found or something like that. Anyway, it's a wild card of a scooter that I've been watching for a while, and one that you never know. If I found the right situation, I might jump on it. But I'm gonna rank these 4 right off the bat here. So for number 1, I'm going to have to go with the Mars XTR. So many things I like about it, very few things I don't like about it. For the money, $3,400 is crazy for what you get. I like the black version. I don't think it doesn't show they have the camouflage version at the moment or whatever. So, but I like the black one better anyway. It's just it's a B scooter, and $3,400 is just a steal of a deal for this scooter. It's been there. They haven't gone up in price. They've been steady at $3,400, and I honestly believe it's worth every penny of the $3,400. Once again, I like the stem the best out of all of these that we looked at so far. I believe it's the most stable scooter of all of these scooters that we've looked at so far. Not that they're all unstable. I just they all have steering dampers. I'll say that they all have steering dampers. So, you know, that says something. You know, the only one that doesn't need it out of this particular group here is the Teewing Mars XTR. So this will be my number 1 choice on the list. For number 2, I'm gonna have to go with the Yumi Predator on this one. It's $3,700. Same as the Hooga Daytona. You know, 13-inch tires. It's UL listed. I believe you can get a thumb throttle for it. Does have the one steering dampener. All these have steering dampeners other than the XTR, which was my first choice, and mostly because of the price. So it doesn't have 13-inch tires, but once again, I don't believe that's absolutely necessary on a scooter. I'm sure it has its benefits, although it's not something I once again I don't see it as a huge upgrade, so it's not a big deal to me between those. But that being said, the Predator is my number 2 choice. I like that it has UL listed. All the scooters are UL listed. Free shipping to the US, and if that truly holds up, that's great. So with that said, Yumi is my number 2 favorite. From there, I think I like the Teverun Fighter Supreme 7260R. The reason is just a massive battery. You've got the massive controllers. This thing is just completely specced out. You still got the 13-inch tires. I know you've got the finger throttle, but I want to say average guy put a thumb throttle on there, so I probably would be watching his video if I got this scooter to make sure I was doing that correctly. I don't have plans to buy the Teverun. I still think it's a little bit high priced. I believe it was a bit cheaper before, maybe only $38.95 or something like that. They're probably sold out, and so they've thought, well, we don't have to sell them for so little. I do like them, and like they're on the higher end. So it probably would have had a high, maybe beat the Yumi Predator out if it were the same price. A little bit higher though, and once again it has the not so great water rating. The Yumi is rated for IP54 water rating, which is not great, but it's certainly better than light rain. So I have to give it up for the Yumi Predator for at least having a water rating, even though I think that's probably low. Once again, XTR has an IP66 water rating. Best of the group. And so yeah, number 3 for me is going to be the Teverun Fighter Supreme at $4,000, although it's out of stock at the moment. And then finally, the Huga Daytona electric scooter is last on my list. And unfortunately, the biggest reason it's last on my list, I love the scooter, to be honest, and it doesn't mean that I don't like it because it's last on my list. It doesn't mean that it's the worst scooter in the world. I would never buy it or anything like that. It's a very nice scooter. It's a very cool scooter. If it reviews well and people have good experiences, and if they have issues, don't have problems getting parts, it's a possibility I could get one of these scooters in the future. It's a very real possibility. I just don't know a lot about Hooga. I thought it was going to be eMove, and so that was a big reason for my interest in the scooter. This being a no-name scooter, I mean, I'm not familiar with Hooga. So if someone else is, feel free to chime in and let me know. But I don't know who Hooga is. I haven't done enough research. I just now found out that this was this is going to be a different company. So I'd have to see if I can find out anything about Hooga. But so far, that's my biggest hesitancy to purchase this scooter at $3,700, just because I don't know anything about Hooga. I don't know anything about the person that's making this scooter. I thought it was Voro, and I thought it was an eMove scooter. So, although I still like it and I still think it's a crazy scooter and actually a decent price for what you get, it's gonna have to come out to be last on my list. Then of course the wild card being the InMotion RS. So there you go. All right, so let's get into a little bit of riding footage and just kind of chat for a bit. So first things first, before I get into anything else, I want to mention that there's a Dallas Electrify Expo coming up November 15th and 16th. And for some of you that may remember or know that I am originally from Dallas, and I only live a couple of hours away from Dallas at the moment anyway. So I've got family there, and so I decided, you know what, it'll be a good time to go and see family and get some footage, test out some scooters and e-bikes, maybe something like that at the expo. And that'll be a fun day to go get some some video footage for you guys, and like I said, have some fun, get to see some family, go home for a little bit. So anyway, if any of you guys, I don't know what the odds are, that's anyone watching this is gonna be at the Dallas Electrify Expo. If you guys are, feel free to try to look me up while I'm there. Hit me up in an email. Email me. My email contact information is in the bio, and I'll be happy to at least try to meet up at the expo at some time and do a quick introduction, meet and greet, and that'll be kind of fun. So yeah, please look me up, and let's if you're gonna be there, then let's hook up. And that's any companies as well. I don't know what all companies are gonna be there. I will be there, and I'll be going out to the companies that I am familiar with and introducing myself if I don't know them already. So I will. I'm excited, and I can't wait. I hope I get to see some people there that are familiar with the channel, or whatever, and I'm really looking forward to it. So I know it's in Dallas. Like I said, I don't know how many people that watch my channel have seen my channel are from the Dallas area, or happen to be maybe just going to see the Electrify Expo. It was going to be in May, I think, but it got pushed off to November. Either way, I probably would have tried to make it. November gives me a little bit more time to plan. Like I said, I'm going to go there. I don't know how long I'm going to be there, but I'm going to try to spend at least 2 or 3 hours there. I may get caught up and spend the entire day, but I don't plan on it. I got some people to see that I care a lot about, and so unless I can drag them to the expo with me, I'm going to have to set aside some time to go see them elsewhere. But yeah, that's the first thing I wanted to talk about. On this trip today, taking a trip to the post office to mail off some stuff, and so once again on the city, I'm just kind of getting going here, and I'm running a light. I'm getting way too comfortable on these scooters. I'm just running yellow lights like it's no thing. I'm wearing all my gear, which I really like. It's a bit sweaty, but like I said, to be honest, and the person that recommended it to me was on a scooter board, and they recommended this motorcycle shirt and motorcycle pants, and they're a bit heavy. But they're vented. They're mesh, and so everything I wear is mesh. And I sweat a little bit out there, but you get going and you got the airflow coming through. I mean, it's not bad at all. As long as you're moving, it's not bad at all. But when I get home and take it off, it's kind of heavy and it's all sweaty. But the ride is enjoyable, and I really do feel a lot more protected. I know it's not 100%, obviously, and I really don't want to get into an accident at all. Hopefully, I will never get into an accident. But I just like the idea, if I'm going to be riding out here with cars and going to speeds that I'm going to be going, to have that kind of protection. I did mention that I put mirrors. I think I've said I put mirrors on these. I mean, I know I've had some in the videos, but I don't know if I particularly addressed it. But yeah, I put mirrors on all my scooters in general, especially if I'm going to ride in the streets, because I like to be able to see cars, pulling up beside me, or check over if I want to get over. I have my mirror to help me check. I still do a quick shoulder check, but without a mirror, it's not just a quick check. I have to really look back and see if there's anything coming. With a mirror, I can look back. I don't see anything. Quick shoulder check, and I'm getting over. So it's just much better with a mirror. I don't depend 100% on the mirrors, just like I wouldn't in a car. I use it the same way that I would when I'm driving. So I'll check my mirror, and if everything's clear, I'll do a quick over-the-shoulder check and then get over. So same thing on my scooter. I don't depend 100% on the mirror, but it's nice because I don't have to spend as much time looking over, which I like. just that's just something I brought up since I'm moving along here. All right. The next thing, which is not really a scooter thing, but it is. It is a scooter thing, even though on the surface and it doesn't seem like it is. And what I want to talk about is, I don't know if you guys are familiar with e-cells. I don't think I've done a video on them. I did a video comparing a couple of e-bikes before, when I was considering maybe getting an e-bike. I still may get an e-bike. It won't be an e-cells, that's for sure. But a little bit more on that. So the e-cells company, they were competitors with the wired bikes, and they're popular bikes. They are 60. I think their entry level bike starts at like 60 volts, and can go like 40 miles an hour. They have dual motors. I'm sorry, dual batteries in the wired Freedom, I think it is. You can have dual batteries, which I think it comes to like 30. I want to say 38 total hours. One is like 18 and one is 20. I want to say it's 38 total hours, so not bad. Get you a little bit of range there. Not bad at all. So get a nice little bit of range for sure on that. But in any case, e-cells was supposed to be, like, to be honest, like a serious competitor for wired. They also have similar bikes with entry level 60 volt systems that go 40 miles an hour. Very similar styles. E-cells seem to be a little bit stepped up their game just a little bit more. The bikes were just seemed to be a little bit nicer. Had the option between a torque sensor and a cadence sensor. You could actually go either way with that. I didn't hear as many problems with the e-cells. People that tested the e-cells really liked them. Some say that they were some of the best e-bikes out there. But the company and the guy who started the company was one of these the same thing. It seems to be the trend right now in like electric mobility. Is every CEO, every founder wants to be the guy the customer can pick up and call to get help. And this guy was the same way. Don't remember his name right off the top, but the founder of e-cells, I did find out some interesting stuff about the guy. Not the most trustworthy guy, but in any case, he made a pretty good bike, but he didn't have good ethics, and maybe made some mistakes along the way, or had some unforeseen issues. But at the very end, he decided to bail, and he took his and he shut down the company, and e-cells is no more. There are a lot of people that put in orders that paid several $1,000s for bikes that they're never going to get. And from what I hear, like, they're trying to handle all of that through the bankruptcies, and you probably have to sue the company, so forth, things like that, to try to get the money. So very, very, really, crappy situation for these customers, these people that trust these reviewers. They go out there and push these companies. All right, we're getting going again. So, similar thing, although I didn't hear anything like this about Fluid Free Ride. You think you're getting a warranty. You expect you're getting a warranty, like I did when I bought the Klima. I did not. I barely had a warranty at all, if I really ever truly had a warranty. They did, support me somewhat with the brakes and so forth. So, I assume to some degree I did have a warranty, but it wasn't the warranty that I was supposed to have. I was also supposed to have lifetime support for 50% off of any parts for the Klima of the life of the scooter. And so those things fell apart, and therefore, uh, I lost my warranty. I still don't have a warranty. I bought the scooter last. I got it in October last year, and so they were gone right away. So real quick, I'm going to talk about this guy. This guy who's cutting between cars right there. I've seen this guy around, and he's an older guy, kind of a funny guy, and I just I don't believe I've talked about this before. Hopefully I have not, but in any case, I thought it would be kind of funny to talk about this today as I'm going through some of these issues. So, just like with Free Ride, eSales went out of business. They shut their site down, everything. Like, you can't contact them, nothing. So, like I said, with Fluid, I haven't heard about anybody buying scooters and not getting them, but I have heard plenty of stories about them needing support and not getting support. So they'll sell you the scooters still. I guess they're still selling scooters, but don't expect any support. If you get the slightest problem at this point, you can forget it. They're not answering calls. So, like I said, with e-sales, it's a real issue. So it's difficult for influencers to support these companies and back them up, and they do these reviews and they want to sell scooters. So they end up pushing them, to sell, and some of them are good scooters, but a lot of times they just don't know. They don't know the companies. They don't know the situations. With the inside of they don't know these people's ethics. They don't know if these people are stand-up people. They don't know if the company starts having problems, how they're going to deal with it. So the e-sales issue is a good lesson. It's a good lesson that even a company that seems legit, that has good products, and even ones that have CEOs that will take your calls, could bail, right? They're doing that for face value. Some of them, they're doing it for face value because that seems to be the trend. That you can pick up the phone or an email and get a hold of owners that help you, and they're super helpful from what I understand. But if something comes to be an issue, then it's a problem. It's a problem. So I don't, it's difficult for me to say that, I know, and the best you can do is try to get with a company that's been around. Now, Fluid Free Ride, I had heard lots of good stuff about. Never heard any issues. People like them. Nami's, no issues. People love them. I still have good things to say about Michael Shaw and Nami. I don't have a problem with them whatsoever. Of course, there's no guarantee that some of these things are, they could happen to e-sales. I mean, Nami's been around a while. They've had several generations of scooters, and I really don't expect that to be an issue. But it is something that you got to think about. And so this guy right here, like I said, this is the same guy, by the way. It's the same guy that cut across earlier. I didn't realize that until I started talking to him, and I seen him, and I went back and watched the video, and I was like, wait, that's the same guy. Anyway, he was kind of talking to me. I didn't realize until we started talking that I had actually talked to him before. He's got a little Segway 9-bot E2 or something like that, and he's he doesn't know too much about scooters. I asked him what kind of Segway it was. I had to look it up, but I asked him what kind of scooter he had, and he said it was a Sega. He called it a Sega. So okay, he doesn't know. He just has a scooter. But he says he has a half dozen other scooters, which is, like I said, why that's when I remember that we had talked before. But we're just talking. He's just talking to me, talking about my scooter and his scooters and stuff like that. And like I said, I realized I had seen him before, and he seems like a nice enough guy, just out here kind of having fun. And And anyway, I asked him, like, what are you gonna do with your drink? How are you gonna carry your drink? I told him I go to all this trouble, and I have these bags. I can put it in my backpack, or most of the time I try to put it in my scooter bag there on the handlebars, which is why I sort of do it. But I'll end up like I said, using that. And so I asked him. I said, how are you gonna ride with it? And he just says he just rides with it. So he also said his back tire's flat. So he's riding around on this scooter with a flat back tire, a big gulp in one hand, and a cigarette in the other. And I just thought that's hilarious. I mean, I'm here. I am wearing all this gear, taking all these, precautionary measures and so forth, and he's just talking about his little scooter and so forth. But yeah, he's got a flat on the back, a drink in his left hand. He just puts it on there. And he just has the drink and off he goes, flat tire and all. I hope he stays safe. But man, he's a pretty cool guy, pretty nice guy. I've seen him here, like I said, at 7-Eleven. Get same thing. Like when I come to get drinks, I bump into him. So, like I said, pretty cool guy. But yeah, it was hilarious. He just kind of jumped on, and he just hung his drink over the handlebar there, and had a cigarette in the other hand. I don't. Maybe he even smokes as he's riding. But anyway, yeah, I just wanted to kind of talk about that. So real quick, since we're here, I try to get a good view real quick. All right, perfect view to talk about what I'm gonna talk about next. So, I had a viewer that was asking me some questions about the Apollo, specifically I think the City, and I've said that I've recommended the Apollo City and how much I like it and so forth. So far, I can recommend it. I don't have a problem recommending the Apollo City, and it's my number one go-to scooter at the moment for my daily travels. It's the one I like to ride the most. Like I said, just my day. If I want something sporty and fast and fun, then of course the Nami Klima is it. But for just getting around doing my own errands and stuff like this, it's perfect. But one thing that's not perfect, I wanted to point out, is someone mentioned, and I think there's a guy, he's like Zero Love Scooters or something like that. He's in this video that he did, he's kind of new to scooters, and so he got this scooter, and he knew it was a nice scooter and so forth. I don't know if he knew exactly what he was getting, because it seemed like more he wanted something kind of off-road, and the Apollo City was the last thing he should have gotten for an off-road scooter. So he looking for more beefy type suspension and so forth, stuff like that. So I just think he was maybe off base a little bit. But one of the things he brought up, which I don't disagree with, is that the brakes are a little bit hard to get to. You should be able to just kind of have them push over, and so you can get a better grip on the brakes. And the viewer brought this up to me as well, and they asked me about it. And I said, well, look, I don't like the brakes. I don't like the brakes on the City. I don't like the brakes on the Go. Those are the two that I have the most experience with. And so, because they're drum brakes for the most part, they're really hard to squeeze. If I had to use them as my main brake, I wouldn't ride the scooter. Very simple. But because the regen brake is so good, I don't mind that the drum brakes are kind of crappy. It doesn't bother me. So that was my reply. I said, it doesn't really bother me that much. This little setup here, but it did get me thinking. And that's the truth. I really don't. I've never had to use them in a real situation. So I've only done it when testing. And then I started thinking about it a little bit, and I said, when I'm testing, it's like I know I'm going to pull the brakes, and mentally I prepare myself to pull the brakes way ahead of time. I'm not pulling the brakes at the last minute. And if I needed to stop really quickly, and I didn't trust that the regen brake was going to be enough, I would want to know that I could use the drum brakes to stop. And I tested it, and it works. However, I think one of the things, and I went back, and one of the things I don't think I considered. I tested them when I first got it, but one of the things I didn't consider is that based on where the throttle is on here, I've got to put my hands really close to the inside, because the throttle's right to the inside of the handlebar. I've really got to put my hands here, even though they're 27-inch handlebars. Because I'm using the throttle and the regen brake, my hands had to be fairly close, as close as I can get them on the handlebars. That being said, you see, I've got to reach past the brake and to use the throttle. It's the same on the other side, just the opposite. So you've got the regen brake over there, and you got the throttle over here. So you're constantly just doing this on the City and the Go. The difference is the City has front and rear drum brakes, and the Go only has rear drum brakes. But it goes a little faster, so that it makes sense. In any case, what I was doing was I was testing it out. So I just sitting over there, kind of playing with it, putting my hands really close, which is where I have to have them when I'm riding. And then I just reach up from there, just reach up and grab the brakes to see from that position. If I had to do it really quickly without thinking about it, and I just had to instinctively reach up and grab them, what I realized was that they really were too close. They really were too close to my hands. And most of the time, I believe in my other scooters that I have like the Klima. The Klima, the first thing right next to the handlebar is the throttle. I think it's the same way like most of the scooters, like my Hover 190 Max, the one that I fixed the throttle for my buddy. I did, want to see if I could move this throttle closer, because I would rather have the brake on this side and the throttle on this side. And it's a little complex to do, but I've done a few things on scooters now, and Apollo has some pretty good videos. So I was able to go in and switch out this. So I took the handlebar off, or the handle grip, end cap thing, then I removed the brake, and then I slid off the accelerator, and then I put the brake back on, and then I put the accelerator back on, and then I put the handle grip back on. It's a little tricky. You got to remove the display. I know it's weird, but it's because of how it's wired. So you got to remove the display to disconnect it. Now it's a little bit of a job, and it's got a lot of little wires to mess with, and you're gonna have to disconnect them and reconnect them, and you're gonna have to use like a fishing wire to get it through there. But it worked. They show you all that on the Apollo stuff, so they really do a good job of explaining how to do this. Although this is not what they were explaining how to do. This was my answer for that. But they show you how to replace the brakes. They show you how to replace the throttle, and so you can see how they go about it, and you can kind of get an idea. Okay, that's how you do it. So you remove this display. You'll have a bunch of wires that come out under the display. Then you can disconnect the throttle and the brake and then pull them out. I don't think I had to disconnect the throttle. It was a little tricky. On one side I did the first time. On the second time I figured out a little shortcut, which is to completely remove the screw from the brake and sliding in that little hole. What wouldn't have thought about that, but there's a you'll have to take it out because of how the wires feed when you're putting one in first. Except, like I said, there's a screw that actually that you use to tighten up to keep the brakes secure on the handlebars. And that screw, if you completely remove it, there's a gap, and you can just feed that wire right through the gap, and you don't have to actually remove it from here. So little hack, little shortcut there I figured out on my second one. So the first one I didn't, and I went ahead and disconnected or reconnected it. Not that big of a deal. Just one extra step that I took that I didn't have to once I realized that little trick. But you get these back on, you put them back on, get it all reconnected, and it works perfect. In fact, there's this little plastic thing here. I'll show you guys next time I do a video. I'll show you what I did. Little plastic thing here that goes on the end of this throttle that actually looks really nice up against the handle grips. It actually looks like it was made to do that. I mean, it looks way nicer than this. I think maybe somebody got it confused or something. I don't know. But this is the way they are. This is the way they are in the video. But when you move them, and you move the brakes here and you move the throttle here, this little cap that sits on there so nicely, it just looks like it goes together. I actually like the way it looks. It looks cleaner to me with the brake on the inside. I didn't think it would, but it actually really does. And so you have the brake here on the inside and the throttle now on the outside on my Apollo City. And what that does is it moves the throttle closer to my thumb, so I don't have to be so inside with my hands, because now I can reach over, but I don't have to reach past the brake anymore to reach the throttle or the region and brake on the other side. Now so that's one benefit. I don't have to push my hands so close, so I can move my hands a little bit farther out on the grips. Now the next thing obviously is that it moves the brake this way. It moves the brake this way and puts it right next to here. And what that does, when I was reaching up before with my hands so close, like it is right here, part of my fingers were right here on the very inside of the brake. So even 2 or 3 fingers right here wasn't enough to get a good stopping power. Just if I held my hands right where they are, I couldn't. Honestly, I was using 3 fingers. I literally have to take all fingers off and just pull the brakes. And I'm in a situation where you're trying to do that really quickly. It's not an ideal. It's not an ideal situation. So moving it on the inside, now I grab the outside. Now this is the area that I'm able to grab. 2 or 3 fingers is all I need now to be able. I wish it was single finger, but it's drum brakes. It's not going to happen. But with this leverage on the inside, it was really difficult to squeeze, and I didn't trust that I would be able to use them in an emergency situation to actually come to a stop. I was considering not being able to ride the city for a while, and it was really bugging me, which is why I came up with this idea, because I really liked the city, but I wasn't comfortable with having this brake the way it is, and me having to depend on it in a situation. I mean, it would just be, I don't think it would work. I think it could be very dangerous. So I moved it here on the inside, and I moved this on the outside. Now that, once again, I can have my hand a little further out, and because the brake is further in this way, I'm grabbing the part of the brake that I should be grabbing, the one that gives me the most leverage to actually bring the scooter to a stop. Once again, it's a little bit heavy, it's a little bit hectic to do, and they hide the wires pretty well and so forth. But it's doable. The only problem I had that I had to make a small, not really too big of a deal, was on the other side of my regen brake is the same side where the brakes have the little bell. And I've tried to use a bell before. Some people hear it, some people don't. But because I have this mirror on the other side, the actual bell part that rings hits this. It hits this. So you can't push it up flush against here. You can't, there's a big gap because of that bell. Sorry, I moved it. I didn't remove the entire bell. I just removed the metal part there, that the actual part that dings. I just took it off, and now it sits flush, I don't have the bell for use. I don't really care. It's hardly noticeable. But I do have my little bell over there, so I'll probably continue using that. It's fine. Probably in too many situations, and I do have a whistle too. So if I figure out, maybe I can program one of the buttons to ring and the other to whistle. That'll be perfect, because then I could choose one that's a little bit more for pedestrians, and one that'll probably get more attention to someone riding, like the whistle. I don't necessarily want to pull up behind somebody and blow a whistle at them, but a car, to let them know I'm there might be a good idea. So that's the only caveat that on the other, and it's only because I have this right here. I don't think that would be an issue if you didn't have mirrors. So, and if you do, then you'll probably have to remove the bell if you make the same change. But that was my big issue, and now I've switched them out and I've tested it again. I really like the way the brakes feel now with it on the inside and the throttle on the outside. I don't know why Apollo doesn't do this already. I think it makes sense from a standpoint of ergonomics, where you're trying to put your hands, where you're trying to use, how everything is situated for you to get to and use appropriately. I think it makes sense. It almost looks like it is designed that way, so it looks better and it works better. And I'm not trying to tell Apollo how to do their stuff, but I think it should be done like that. But it doesn't matter. It's not that difficult to do. If you have a city, they have great videos, and you can go in and make that change. I have some shrink wrap to shrink wrap the connections when I was done. If you don't, you can use electrical tape or whatever to keep it secure. But I wanted to update on that. Just did that today. I also replaced my neighbor. So the neighbor, I think I'll tell you guys, the neighbor that I gave the Journey Max scooter to, he's like a disabled vet, and he had a flat. I've replaced 2 flats on those. I told him when I gave him the scooter, I said, if you have a flat, don't call me. I hate changing flats on that scooter. It's the thing I hate the most about the scooter, is changing flats. The second most is the lack of suspension. So those 2 things are my biggest pet peeves, things that I dislike about the Journey Max. Otherwise, Journey Max is a great scooter. It was a great first scooter. I wish it had suspension, and I wish it had split rims. So if it had split rims, the tube thing wouldn't bother me, kind of like the InMotion Climber. The Climber doesn't have suspension either, but it does have split rims, so that's one of the 2 things. And so in any case, that's my like I said, that's what I don't really enjoy. So he hits me up the other day, and he asked me which tubes to get, because he had a flat. He needed to fix on the Journey Max, and wanted to know which tubes that he should get. And so, I let him know which tubes he needed and so forth. I don't think he could find them or whatever. So, point being, I ended up just changing them for him. My personality, even though I said I said don't call me. I can't stand to see the guy. He's got another scooter. He's got the other scooter, but it's not the Journey Max, and he doesn't use it the way he really wants to use it. Once you get the Journey Max, you don't want to ride on one of those little single 350 watt front motor. It's just not the same. Not the same. It has a little bit of a suspension, but it has solid tires. And so once again, I'd ride the Journey Max over that any day. And so, I'm sure he feels the same way. And I like I said, I just didn't. I didn't want to make him sit there and not have to be able to use the scooter. And so I went ahead and helped him change. I pretty much, he helped me change the tire. I did the most part to be honest, it was kind of nice when at the very end, when I'm trying to get that last part of the tire, it was nice to have someone else there to kind of hold that side so it doesn't come undone while I'm working on the other part. That did make it a tad better, but still a little bit of a pain. Still, a bit to contend with, and you still have the tubes, and you still have that issue trying to get that back on there without popping the tubes. Which, like I said, it's okay for me with the tubeless tires because yeah, it's hard work to get the tire back on, but once it's on, you don't have to worry about did I pop the tube, did I accidentally pinch it, whatever. And I've pinched several tubes, and so it's just not an issue with the tubeless tires. But on the tube tires, the split rim, I really like the idea. You're not depending on anything in the split rim. You're depending on the tube. So you put the rim back together. You have your tube. You have your tire. You just air it up. I mean, that's so nice. So for a little scooter like that, I could see that being a decent option. Like I said, like on the climber. But it's a little bit of a pain. But we did get it fixed. Got it back going again, and so I'm pretty happy about that. But even though I never wanted to change, the whole reason I got rid of the Journey Max was because I didn't want to change those tires again. I knew it would come up, and I was like, hey, I don't want to put any more money or effort into this scooter, and that's why I ended up getting the Apollo Go. But yeah, that was not too bad though. I'm glad I helped him out, and if he has another flat, I'll help him. I don't like seeing people not have stuff. Scooters, like I said, he's my neighbor, and he doesn't drive or anything, so his scooter's kind of way he has to get around and take care of his little errands and so forth as well. So anyway, yeah, I'm happy to do that for him, even though I didn't enjoy it. My fingers are still kind of sore. My cuticles get all ripped apart, and my fingers are sore for like a week. But anyway, still, I'm very happy. And once I said my personality is just like once I set my mind to something, I'm just like, I'm not gonna do it till I come out the other side victorious. All right, this is the last thing that I was going to talk about, and so this is kind of like the opposite. This is the opposite of the Apollo, and I want to talk about some of the things that I like about it, and why this way I sort of prefer what they call, and I'm just going to be honest, like this term bird's nest at this point is almost to me like it's almost cringy. It almost makes me cringe when I hear it because it's so overused. Every time you have a lot of wires like this, they call it a bird's nest. And like I said, it's so overused in the scooter community. I don't want to continue that. So, but that's the thing is that people say, like, you have all these wires kind of hanging out everywhere, and there's wire and cable management that you can do to clean that up and make it look nicer. As you see, I've seen videos where they didn't like to clean it because the wires are hanging all out in front of the light. I don't have any issues with that. But I have good cable management skills. So I hate to say it, but I took a zip tie and I zip tied this thing back because this doesn't stay up well. So that's the first thing I did. It's got a little connector that's supposed to go in, but it doesn't stay in. That's okay. Zip ties work wonderfully, and then you've got all these connectors that go into here. So you've got something from the blinkers, you've got something from the brakes, you've got something from the throttle, you've got something from the NFC reader, you've got something from the mode button. All these little buttons, you've got an individual line coming to control. Now, this is the hydraulic line. Then you have your electronics. So there's two coming from the brake, and you just have a whole slew of cables that are going in here. That if you don't manage them correctly or try to clean it up a bit, it can look kind of messy. But as you see, this doesn't look messy at all. Nothing is blocking my light. You don't see a bunch of just loose stuff hanging everywhere. Inside, I have the connection shrink wrapped, and then I have duct tape on the outside. Sorry, electrical tape. So I've got electrical tape on the outside, and then everything is shrink wrapped as far as the connections on the inside. So this is very secure, very very well maintained. You're not, nothing here is gonna pull apart, or there's just no chance of it. Uh, and then I use cable ties to clean it up. Very simple. Clean this up. Put this over here. If I didn't have this tied here, it would be sticking out here. If I didn't have all these, you'd have it here. So this will come down. This will come up. These will go all over the place. You know. So I just wanted to talk about like cable management a bit, and I know people want their scooters to come perfectly, and people say, well, I don't like I'm not even gonna say it again, the B word. I don't like the B word. you know uh and so they want scooters like the Apollos that have, you can see like two cables. Not a big deal, but as you seen earlier, like with the Apollo, when I have to go change something, I've got to remove the display. Imagine if I had to change something on the Klima and I needed to remove the display. Well, why would I do that? The display itself is another plug and play. Everything here is plug and play. The You need to replace the turn signal, it's plug and play. You need to replace your brakes, I've done it several times, it's plug and play. Your NFC module doesn't work, it's plug and play. Your display doesn't work, it's plug and play. It's got one cable that plugs in. You don't have to take out a bunch of wires. You want to see a bunch of wires? Take off that display on the Apollo City. It's incredible the amount of wires that you have under there. Everything has a little wire that goes into it. So even though on the outside it looks clean, when you open it up, it's a lot to deal with. And out here, it's not. Out here, this is not a lot to deal with. So if you don't ever mess with your scooter, if you don't ever work on your scooter, if you don't ever have to change anything out, you know what? The Apollos look nice. You'll never have to worry about it. But if you want to do like I did, if you want to switch the throttle with the brake, you're gonna have to do some pretty intense stuff to get that to happen. This is simple. Take off the tape, cut the shrink wrap, pull it apart. It's very simple, very clean, very very manageable. So this, I love the fact that you can do this. I love the fact that you can have these like they're supposed to be. I think now look, I think the plastic's supposed to go up here, and maybe this one too. Anyway, I'll get that fixed. But in any case, as far as wire management, this all looks really good, and it's because I went to the trouble to make sure they were secured right here. I taped them up. They are taped up. They come shrink wrapped. They have a large shrink wrap thing that they had on here. Well, when I cut that off, and since I do a lot of work either with the brakes or whatever I happen to be doing, I disconnect the ones that I need to and remove them. So switch out the brakes, but you still got to disconnect the throttle. You still got to do all those things, when you work on the scooter. So, but it just makes it way easier if you don't have to go and remove the display to get to all the wiring and feed it through. There's nothing to feed. I had to get a feed wire to do that for the Apollo. Not the end of the world, but as you can imagine, it takes a little time to feed it correctly, and sometimes the wire would come loose. I mean, it's normal stuff like that happens when you have to use a feed wire. So there are no feed wires necessary for this job. You have some scissors. You have, even if you didn't have shrink wrap, you could use electrical tape to tape up those connections. They're just to make sure that the connections don't come apart. But since I have shrink wrap and I wanted to, do it the right way and neat and everything, I went ahead and got some shrink wrap tubes and a heat gun. So I really like that. And like I said, anytime I have to work on the Klima, it's so nice to have this right here ready to go. Anything I need, I just clip that off, and I take this off, and I have all my stuff here that I need, and I find out which ones I need to disconnect. It's no problem at all. Guys, if you enjoyed this content and you found it helpful, please like, share, and subscribe, and happy riding.
dream on the fly. Zooms past the world, electric and spry. Through the city he weaves like a bird in the sky. The legend of the electric scooter guy. No gas, no fumes, just a hum in the air. A helmet on crooked, like he doesn't care. With a backpack full of snacks and a gleam in his eye. He's the hero we need, the electric scooter guy. Oh, scooter guy, you're flying so high, dodging the traffic as you glide by. Street lights flicker as you electrify. You're the one and only electric scooter guy. Potholes can't stop him, he jumps with flair. Wind in his face, like he just doesn't care. Charging his ride while sipping a chai. The unstoppable electric scooter guy. Ah, yeah. Late night rides under neon glow. His battery's low, but he still won't go. He's a rebel on wheels, no need to comply. Forever rolling, the electric scooter guy. Oh, scooter guy, you're flying so high, dodging the traffic as you glide by. Street lights flicker as you electrify. You're the one and only electric scooter guy. Oh, scooter guy, you're flying so high, dodging the traffic as you glide by. Street lights flicker as you electrify. You're the one and only electric scooter guy. Electric scooter guy. Electric scooter guy.